can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, today's video, we're going to be talking about Strange, number 10, by Jed MacKay and Marcelo Ferreira. Before we get into the major thing that I want to talk about, you kind of need to have some background here on what is even going on. So I'm going to try and sum it up as quickly as humanly possible. But basically, what you need to know is this all kind of started with the event, the death of Doctor Strange. This led to Clea pulling double duty, but Clea wouldn't let this stop her from her main goal, and that was to resurrect Stephen Strange. Throughout the course of this 10-issue series, she's been largely unsuccessful no matter how hard she tries, but out of nowhere, a mysterious individual called the Harvestman appears in this series, one who just so happens to be Stephen Strange, returned to Quotey Finger's life by Death herself to help her destroy the sudden onslaught of revenants cropping up left and right, thanks to an organization calling themselves the Blasphemy Cartel, led by a mysterious individual known only as Director None. If the Blasphemy Cartel and Director None don't ring a bell to you, it's okay, because these are brand new characters. They have never been seen before in the Marvel Comics universe up until this series. But what you need to know about them is that these brand new enemies are hell-bent on keeping themselves a secret, to the point that they used an IMD, an incantation of mass distraction, to wipe the memory of the existence of both themselves and the organization called WAND from the entirety of the Earth's population. More or less, WAND was a division within S.H.I.E.L.D. known as Wizardry, Alchemy, Necromancy Division, WAND for short, and the Blasphemy Cartel operated within WAND. And now that they're back, they're unleashing revenants, taking all of these various and sundry dead characters across the Marvel Comics universe and turning them into mindless zombie weapons. Death wants these revenants destroyed because they are an affront to her dominion over entropy. Characters like Black Goliath, Constrictor are among the number of revenants that we see over the course of this series, but their most powerful weapon up to this point is the Sentry. Only this time, instead of being possessed with the power of 100 million exploding suns, he's possessed instead with the power of 100 million insane ghosts. And worse yet, this version of Sentry, who was already a ridiculously overpowered version of Superman, now possesses the one thing Superman doesn't, and that is an immunity to magic. None of the Strange's spells work on him now, and his mind is so far gone, the most powerful mind-warping spells are irrelevant in this matter. So how do they defeat the undefeatable Superman? The issue is that both Stephen and Clea have to work together. And while that's not necessarily an issue, as a matter of fact, since Stephen came back and now that they are working closely together, Clea points out over the course of this series how well they do function together as a team, despite the fact that they have not spent that much time around each other as of late. There's a huge rift between them in the form of one being alive and the other being dead, but it goes a bit deeper than that, and it's something that has been kind of throwing Clea off her game a little bit, and it's the fact that even though Stephen is back and she's so happy that he is, what's making her angry is that she can't touch him, and she will not be able to touch him until Stephen completes Death's bidding. The reason why this is the case is because Stephen is now the avatar, or rather champion, of Death. He must do Death's bidding. It's the only thing keeping him on the prime material plane. Otherwise, if he does not complete the task, or if he somehow reneges on the deal, he goes back to being dead. And even worse yet, Stephen can touch every other person on the planet other than Clea, because Clea is Sorcerer Supreme, meaning she represents magic, and magic equals life. Therefore, if she touches him and he is a representative of death, we're never really explicitly told what bad thing would happen, but what Stephen does know is that whatever it would be, it wouldn't be good. Unfortunately for Stephen, even though he is dead, he can still technically the Quotey Fingers killed, because while they're fighting against the Sentry, despite the fact that there are two Sorcerer Supremes there ready to take him down, neither one of them individually or even together are powerful enough to take him on in a straight up fight. And this leads to Sentry mortally wounding an already dead Stephen Strange to the point that he is about to die yet again. And Clea, still in love with Doctor Strange, rushes to him, and regardless of the fact that Stephen is warning her that something terrible could potentially happen, Clea decides to ignore Stephen's words and instead chooses to give him one last kiss. And she does it defiantly, with no care for the consequences, and it just so happens that what she did was the exact right thing to do. I say this because their essences are supposed to be opposing forces. As I said earlier, the Sorcerer Supreme represents magic, which is equal to life. Stephen Strange, as the Harvestman, represents death and entropy. These are two diametrically opposing forces. And it goes even deeper than that. They also represent opposing origins. Man versus woman, light versus darkness, human versus Faultine, fire versus ice, the dark dimension versus the prime material plane. And these opposing forces don't push each other away. They fuse themselves together, becoming one singular being more powerful than either of themselves separately, even more powerful than the two of them working together as two separate individuals. And in this case, it proves opposites can actually attract. With this new form where they just simply call themselves Strange, they can match Sentry's strength easily. When Sentry tries to hit them with Superman's patented Superman punch, they simply put all four of their hands in front of them, and that punch may as well have just been a finger poke. Even with the Stephen half of this strange entity, he posits that right now he and Clea's fusion form is equally as powerful as the Sentry is. Even the mental magic that didn't work before is so potent, it expels the millions of spirits that power the Sentry currently. And right now, they're so powerful that they can simply wave away everything that the Blasphemy Cartel had done, and the Sentry's impending explosion of souls that can and will destroy everything within a mile radius is nothing more than the passing of a summer breeze for them as they watch Director Nunn die in the flames of the Sentry's second death. And once the task is done, they go back to being their separate selves. And this is a power that I'm pretty sure was not just a one-time deal. I'm almost certain this is something that they could continue to do if they choose to. Clea and Stephen are so close to one another. They know each other so well. Their bond is unshakable, and I would even dare say unbreakable. I'm almost positive this is something that is not just a one-time deal. And regardless of all that, Death is keeping her promise, meaning that Stephen has been returned back to life. Now, what does this mean for the future of Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange comics? Is Clea Strange going to remain the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth? No, she is not. She actually mentions at the end of this book that she is going to transfer the power of Sorcerer Supreme of Earth back to Stephen, and she is going to go back to being the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. And it's heavily implied they are still going to continue to work together, and it's even more heavily implied that they are going to resume their marriage to one another. And of course, in March, we know that Doctor Strange Volume 6, Number 1 will be coming out. That will also have Jed McKay on writing duties, with Pasquale Ferry taking over as artist for the upcoming series. Another thing we know is Doctor Strange is going to be going back to brass tacks, and what I mean by that is he's going to be taking up something that has become more of a staple in the Marvel Comics universe as of late. We've seen this with Jed McKay's Moon Knight and his Midnight Mission, and how he's trying to help his neighborhood by taking on all the various and sundry problems, namely vampires and random supervillains. He's taking that on to protect his neighborhood. And we've also seen this with the recently relaunched Scarlet Witch series by Steve Orlando, where she is offering her help to people who have nowhere else to go by using a spell referred to as the Last Door. And it seems like Stephen is going to be doing something very similar, that he's going to be going back to just helping the every person, helping the little people who have been caught up in the world of the supernatural. And I'm pretty excited for it. That said, that's everything I wanted to talk about with Strange number 10. I really enjoyed the series. I liked seeing Clea as the main Sorcerer Supreme. It was a really nice take. She had a very different attitude than Steven, so it wasn't like the same old, same old. I like it when you take those situations like that, use that opportunity to tell a story about a, honestly, I would say almost more compelling character like Clea, someone who is of the fall teen and from the dark dimension and has a completely different life experience than Steven, and putting her in the position of being a quotey fingers superhero. I thought it was cool, and honestly, I would have been perfectly fine if Clea would have stayed the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth for the next couple of years, 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever. I'd been perfectly fine with it, but we all know that was never going to happen. But I do hope that Clea continues to get more panel time in the upcoming relaunch of Doctor Strange with this new number 1 coming up in March, and who knows, maybe she could start getting some solo series of her own, even if it's like a little mini, a little 5-issue, mini or something like that, or another little short 10-issue run, something like that. I'd be perfectly fine with that too. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 100K subscribers on YouTube in 2023, so make sure you tap that bell button so you get notifications on every video that I put out. In the meantime, do the YouTube thing, click like, share, all that good stuff, and let me know what you thought about Strange number 10. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.